Aloha and welcome to another episode of Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. My name is Kendrick Chang. I'm a youth advisor for Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, who is the sponsor of this monthly segment. And joining me today is Michael Loftin, who is the executive director of 808 Cleanups. And today's episode will be about his organization and his organization's efforts in conservation cleanups. So, Michael, what is your background? What is 808 Cleanups?
Sure thing. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and what we do is we help support volunteers out in the field who want to clean up their sites. Right. And there's no shortage of issues out there. There's litter, there's illegal dumping, graffiti tagging. So we help support them organize cleanups, adopt sites, and also help them get supplies.
Right. And now, Michael, actually, we both have a personal history as it was at a Livable Hawaii Kai Hui cleanup at the Keawa Wetland Complex 2 years ago when we first met each other. And that time you were already tinkering about, having an organization. So, really, how did 808 Cleanups get started?
Well, very early on, we were attacking problems as they came up. It was very reactive. And it didn't take long for us to realize that we had to be proactive. In other words, we had to get positive action out there, lend stewardship to these sites so that people came to respect them more. And that was the common denominator we found is when you steward a site and keep it maintained weekly or monthly, you start influencing other community members to not only help, but to also give the sense to other people in the community that this is a spot that deserves respect, there's other people helping it, and we should all pitch in.
Okay, and then, basically, who is it? It was, obviously you're the executive director, but who else, was really part of this process of, starting up 808 Cleanups? So
from the beginning, Wade Fishman, who's part of our board of directors, helped build it. We also have a great team with Fawn Liebengood, who is the assistant director, and also Ethan Pearson Pomerantz, who is our web guy, and he does a lot of great stuff with the social media and website building. Right.
And when you started, with 808 Cleanups, were you just lucky at focus on just one area, or really how did this whole, concept of how big and then how did it really progress from there?
Yeah. So from the very beginning, we had the site and vision to do everywhere, not just Oahu, but neighbor islands. And pretty much any spot that people saw a problem with, and the wide range of issues going on, not just things being littered and dirty, but unsafe things in the sand. Everyone deserves a clean and safe environment to enjoy. So we had the mindset early on to do everywhere.
Okay, and really, everywhere really sounds ambitious, and really, how do you really connect with all the different communities? Because Oahu by itself is just a big island.
It is. Well, we base it on our structure. It's very decentralized because we know that there's been people who have been cleaning for years, if not decades. So we got that group. But we also have a lot of enthusiastic people that I've met over the years who did cleanups with other groups and did events. And what I would commonly hear is from the volunteers, they would say, when's the next event? Or what else can I do in the meantime? And so between those two things, I'm like, these people who have been doing it for years need help. They need additional hands. These people want to help, don't know where to start. Let's get them together. And so we based it on pretty much supporting the community rather than coming in and saying, oh, we're 808 Cleanups, we're here to help. We're like, you guys are already doing this great work. We're here to help you get more hands, more supplies, help you organize, get the word out. So we based it on that. We wanted to just build up all the hands that are already out there in all the communities.
And now, obviously, there's so many cleanups going on, and as you've been referring to that. Sometimes, I let's say for one, I may show up to this one cleanup and may never go back to the same site ever again. So really, how you've been able to really change this whole reactionary, maybe just this one-time thing to this really more or less a regular instance as far as stewardship in a lot of areas that 808 Cleanups is covering.
Definitely. So we like to look at it on a progressive scale. So a lot of stuff we do now, very shortly down the road, I want to make obsolete. In other words, filling up 42-gallon bags full of trash at each site. That needs to go away, and it's only going to go away by getting more people involved. I see down the road we're going to have constant stewardship. There will always be a need for that, but we'll find less and less litter. And then what we can do is we can devote our time to actually restoring our parks, restoring the facilities so that they're safe, that they work, that they're functional, and that they look nice, and that we have native plants, and that we make everything better. So we offer that since we have events and adopt-a-sites every week. We just want to keep that as a constant force that people can join at any time.
Right. And this whole, adopt the site. So, I mean, how does, let's say I wanted to just adopt the site, or let's just say a teacher of a school, or, maybe a club advisor wants to adopt the site. How does that, process really works?
We make it super streamlined. So what typically happens is through our social media, like our Facebook group, Instagram, or even email, we'll get notification from someone who's in the area, and they'll say, my favorite beach, I'm noticing there's a problem. There's more litter now. I'd like to help adopt it. And basically what we ask of people is, if you want to adopt a site, shoot for weekly or monthly cleanups. And the reasoning being is that if you keep it in check, it's going to be a whole lot easier instead of waiting for it to pile up. And the other effect you have with that constant pressure on the litter is that you make people notice and you get people involved. So you start off by yourself. In a month, you may have like 3 to 4 people helping. Another couple months, you might have like 6 to 12 or more. And so we use the power of our social media to kind of get the word out.
Right.
And we also help with the supplies too, because people need like gloves, they need things to protect themselves as they clean.
Right. And then, I mean, just touching upon social media, and also part of it, the website, because every monthly 808 Cleanups posts all the, numbers of how many trash bags you picked up and how many pounds of nails you picked up. So really, how it has been social media and basically the online world has been fundamental for your organization.
Absolutely. It's a powerful marketing tool. And really, if we go back to the beginnings of 808 Cleanups, we were responding to social media and seeing the negative effects that it had on all these sites, and we're thinking to ourselves, what if we took this very powerful tool and used it to support the volunteers in the field and help get the word out and get more people to help them.
And now, as the response to social media, obviously there's this, adopt and then, really to react, but how does the whole educational component of 808 cleanups and the, really proactive part really comes into play?
Definitely. Well, we make a very strong effort to get into the schools and invite school groups, teachers, and parents to be involved, and we've had tremendous, tremendous success so far, even though we're very small. I will specifically want to mention Mr. Paul Balaz with Kaiser High School, who we both know and work with. He's been fantastic. So him and his Kaiser students, the Wipeout crew, all fantastic. And what we do is, I was actually invited by Mr. Balaz to speak at his school this last fall. And so I took the time to go out and talk about issues that we're talking about now and how they can get involved.
Right.
And then we took those discussions into the field for actual cleanups, which is great, because the areas we're working on are places they go to already. So really having that class component and field component has been fantastic.
Right. And then for members of the audience, basically this is Kaiser High School, and Mr. Paul Balaz, who is an English teacher and also a class advisor.
Yes.
Well, now, and then going within, obviously we're talking about the whole Maunalua community. What particular sites within Maunalua has 808 Cleanups been really proactive in?
We've had a hand in our volunteer community at pretty much all of those sites in one way or another. If we were to look at different sites along the coast, whether it's litter or tagging of nature with spray paint, we've removed tagging of spray paint on China walls, Spinning Caves, Cocoa Crater Arch, Halona Cove, and Allen Davis, and Makapu'u. And we've also removed litter at all those same sites too. And actually there's some areas like Cocoa Crater Stairs, the stairway hike here in Hawaii Kai, that we actually maintain a trash can and recycle bin at the trailhead. And we also clean up the litter that we find up the trail too and bring it back down.
Yeah, and then, obviously that's a lot of sites. One site I would really like to, talk about is Allen Davis.
Yes.
And right now, very recently, you've been really working on this whole, pallet bonfire issue, and we do have a couple photos to put up on the screen to share that.
Perfect.
And really, how is that particular site? Just to give an example for everyone else.
Well, this area on eastern Oahu that goes by Kaibi, Scenic Shoreline, Allen Davis, Irma's, all these different names, it's a very special place. It's one of the most undeveloped spots on East Oahu, and it's popular with fishermen, surfers, just people in general like to go on walks. It's a very relaxing spot. And we saw some serious, serious issues going on there specifically with parties going on at night and people using shipping pallets to burn up on the beach in an open pit. And what's the problem with that is that there's tons and tons of nails, about 80 nails on average in each one of these pallets. Wood gets burned, nails get buried in the sand.
Right. And then basically for those, after maybe a bonfire, are they pretty much just left there?
They are. That's the unfortunate thing we're finding.
Right.
We're finding the nails. We're finding broken glass. Other things they tried to burn up, like the cans and lighter fluid. It's just a huge mess.
Right.
And not just a ugly looking mess,
Yeah.
but it's something that people could step on themselves, their kids, their pets.
Right.
Big problem.
Yeah, and then what has AOA cleanups been able to do to really be proactive of this real issue?
So what we're doing now is, and we've cycled through this, but depending on the time of year, we're going into summer. We know that's a big time of year for this kind of thing. So now we're doing weekly cleanups again every Tuesday at 4. We welcome everyone. What we do is we go out in groups with magnets, sifters, buckets, gloves, the whole deal, and we go through, and all the sites that we find, we go through and we get all that stuff out of there and restore the area.
Yeah. And then obviously, how has 808 Cleanups been able to really be part of the educational? Not realize what the the problems that is being caused by it.
Definitely.
So how does that part work?
So in my talks with classes, and this includes the high schools and colleges too, we reach out to them, we explain the issues with this. Really what the message we try to get to people is we want people to have fun.
Right.
We want people to have the freedom to enjoy these places, but you have to match that fun and freedom with stewardship and responsibility. I know for a fact that people have parties on the beach, but you go the next day, when you clean up, people probably wouldn't even tell at all.
Right.
And that's possible. It's possible for everyone, and that's what we're trying to get across.
Besides, Allen Davis, what areas, does 808 Cleanups help with in Maunalua area?
Sure. I think of Kelowna Cove specifically, and that involves some other issues. So there are the trash cans on that spot that when you have those high winds that are common there, they blow a lot of the trash out.
Right.
So you have a situation where people are throwing away their trash properly, but because of the way the design of the can is, it blows out.
Right.
Now I have talked to the Parks Department a year ago about the need for covers, and they explained that unfortunately they get trashed and stolen and broken and thrown off the cliff. So what I did is I made a very cheap, what I call an Opala fence to test out, and it worked pretty good, but one of the things we'll have to look at is better trash coverings to deal with that, in addition to the cleanups that go on there.
Okay. And then as far as obviously, there's a lot of supplies and manpower involved. So how does 808 Cleanups get its support, in particular actually as far as supplies goes?
Yes, definitely. Well, we get individual donations and also some businesses that sponsor us. One of our best sponsors is the Home Depot, who we work with to get most of the cleanup supplies that we get. We can't get everything from there, but we get a lot of it from there, and they've been fantastic. They've, we share our pictures with them of our cleanups. The volunteer kit that we give out to people features their bucket, so they get some really good community exposure because they're doing great work, supporting us. So that's someone I would mention, and then just individuals who look at our mission, and we're active every day of the week. People are welcome to do that too.
And then also, another area was the Makapu Lighthouse has been another site, and what particular aspects has 808 Cleanups been focusing on with that site?
So this one has gotten a lot of interest because of love locks.
Right.
And basically, love locks are what they entail is it could be any kind of lock. There's some companies that make specialty locks too, but the theory being is people in love, they get this lock and they lock it on a public fence. Sounds innocent enough, but the problems you have that encounter is that a lot of these structures they put them on, the lock actually creates more rust through the interaction between the two metals. And also you have the salt air in Hawaii, which is very, very unforgiving to metal. And then you also, on some of these locks, you have keys, and part of the practice is you throw your key off into the cliff or wherever, or into the water. And there's better things to do, I think, to express love. But what we did is we actually, along with the state parks, we removed those locks, especially the fact that there's new fencing up there, brand new fencing that we want to preserve. It helps protect especially kids from falling off. So when we explain that to people at first, they're like, well, it's just locks. And then we go into those details, they're like, okay, that makes sense.
Right. And I mean, just really in that process, is obviously love locks. I mean, or just, you know, a lot of things that AOA cleanup does in general to clean up. It really starts out with an innocent, I mean, it wasn't intended to go that way. And I mean, how does it, I mean, difficult to, you know, really communicate that with people in the community who may not be aware of the, I mean, unforeseen consequences for their actions.
Right. The thing I really like to stress with people is think of the little things you can do in your life to make things better. You know, on the drive over here, I saw someone smoking in their car. You know, that's fine, that's their choice. But this instance included, every time I see someone smoke in their car, I see them flick the cigarette butt out. And I want all those people to come out to the beach cleanups after a rain and see where all the ones that they throw out on the streets and the gutters, they end up on our beaches. And they're all on the tide line. You know, at the time they might think, oh, it's a little cigarette butt. It adds up. You know, if the more we think about this and the more this is the work we do to kind of make people think of that, about that, the more people think about that, I think that'll improve a lot of things.
Right. And then how have you been able to communicate that? Is that through social media, or is it just meeting with individual groups, or?
Oh, both definitely. The social media is a powerful tool, but nothing's ever going to beat being out in the field. Face to face, I've had hugely, you know, productive conversations with people. They see us cleaning, they get curious, they walk over. For example, Ki'iwi will have a magnet with nails sticking out of it, and they'll be like, whoa, you know, like it looked like just sand before, and now they're like, wow, that's incredible. And we use that as a segue to talk about what we're doing. And it's been a great outreach tool for that. So.
Okay. And as far as, you know, once you clean up all the trash or, you know, whatever you clean up for the day, what happens to
optimally, if someone who is at the group has a truck, we've had some awesome volunteers who will take it to the dump themselves. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll contact state and city and county and give them a heads up. We'll say, oh, we collected this much. And that lets their guys in the field know and give them a little heads up. Optimally, as we grow, I want us to take it all ourselves, which is the goal.
At this point, I mean, this has only been 2 years since 808 Cleanups has been founded. I mean, how big is the organization currently, if you have any numbers? Yeah.
So we're very small at this stage, but we do a lot with what we have, and that goes for both funding. But I'll tell you what, the volunteer enthusiasm is, you know, through the roof. It's just fantastic. That's makes me, you know, so happy to see what's going on. So we have about 3,000 members in our Facebook group, and out of that, I would say we got 200 to 300 who are very active, and we're talking weekly, monthly cleanups. So we've got that going for us. Our funding is still small, but we do so much with what we have, and we really try to base it on the enthusiasm principle. The volunteers that bring the most enthusiasm, we help them the most, and they help feed that out to their family, their friends, everyone.
And then really, I mean, 200 to 300 active volunteers. How have you been able to, you know, really get to that point so far?
You know, started off very slowly at first. But then it was kind of like a snowball. It just kept building and building. And really, what people see is they see that they can be empowered. That's really what we focus on. It's like, you know, you don't have to wait any longer. If you see a problem, let's look at how we can fix it. There's other people out there like you who want to help. We just got to link you up with them, and that's what we do. And then basic supplies, we want to make sure everyone, no matter what their situation is, has that ability to clean up. So bringing these all together, pretty much from the beginning I saw it as just a need to help manage, to bring people together.
And what other aspects, you know, does 808 Cleanups do besides, you know, just organizing and, you know, really giving the resources and the education? Is there anything else that 808 Cleanups
does? So we see all these great groups and organizations out there that have been here long before us, and part of what we want to do is build everyone up. So other groups that are doing fantastic work in cleanups, ecosystem restoration, Hawaiian culture, you name it, we will help promote them on our social media and on our calendar. And it's been great to hear from other organizations that are like, yeah, volunteers found us, you know, through you. That's what we want to do. We want to make this normal in people's lives, where they're like, you know, they come to the weekend, they're like, the first thing on their mind is like, I want to help with the cleanup or help with restore a site. That it's not just a fringe thing. And that we make so much progress because we got all these enthusiastic people coming on board.
Sure. Right. And then, I mean, how important it is to really have this make it a regular iteration where it's like, oh, it's the first Saturday that, you know, there's a cleanup at, you know, let's say Allen Davis, or, you know, your weekly Tuesday cleanups. I mean, how are you able to really sustain that, you know, regular iteration or, you know, regular cleanup?
Well, definitely. Well, I find that, you know, myself included, the volunteers that come in, they just love doing it. You know, everyone's got their own motivations. But we also have in mind progression. I tell people all the time, I want to make a lot of what we do now obsolete, but replace it with whatever comes after that. So it could be restoration of sites, repairing facilities. I mean, we're going to find all sorts of stuff to do. We got a big work list already. But taking that enthusiasm and making it such a normal part of people's lives where they're like, you know, I'm going to enjoy the outdoors. And that's the great thing. We do hiking, we do scuba diving, walking the beach. I mean, we go to these great spots. And what is the reward for people is they make it better, they make it cleaner, they make it safer, and in the process they got the outreach and the awareness, and they brought their family and friends. So it's just a great package overall.
Right. And I mean, really, it's really more or less a package deal. It's not like just really a one-time thing. And then really, I mean, how are you able to really keep everything all organized and, I mean, everything all, you know, together on one site or, you know, just on social media? Because, I mean, there's probably a lot of, you know, things going or movements going on. There's
a lot of moving parts involved. Really, you know, a lot of what helps us do so much is we really try to decentralize it and empower the volunteers out there. I'll give you an example. Out at Nimitz Beach, which a year and a half ago was so beat up, again with pallet bonfires and the dumping and the kiaves and things like that. Out of the blue, some volunteers stepped up and decided to adopt the site. And every month they do cleanups, and all they, you know, need from me is basically help them get the word out through our social media. And then I'll send supplies their way too as they need them. And they've brought in, some days they have groups of like 50 to 60 at their events because they get word out on social media. And they got Rotary clubs, they got schools, churches, you know, the whole deal. And by decentralizing it, that means I personally don't have to run all the way there. And in fact, what I can do is I can go to another cleanup and help lead that. So we actually, through that decentralization, we're not splitting forces. So in other words, you're not taking 100% and cutting it in half. You're making 200% and growing. So that was always the vision with how we built it.
And then, I mean, really, I mean, there's been a lot, you know, within 2 years. And then you know, as you say that, you know, eventually you want to make it obsolete. So I mean, what is really the next steps? As you know, we still got a couple minutes left.
Sure thing. Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, like I said, there'll always be a need for baseline stewardship. Because what happened is we went so far down a path where, you know, things weren't being taken care of that, you know, we go to these sites like Tantalus Lookout, and we find within 2-3 hours, literally 1 ton of garbage in that small area with plenty more below. We want to make sure that never happens again. So we'll always have that, but then we'll progress with like native plantings, coral reef restoration. I mean, we'll find plenty of other work to do.
And then, I mean, right now it's really, you know, a lot of the cleanup aspect, but I mean, how successful have you been able to really incorporate the restoration project or the restoration aspects?
Yeah, so that's in its beginning. So we're just trying to get into that. And really, we want to do it the right way. So that's why we're going to experts with state parks. And we also have awesome people in the community who are experts in native and endangered plants. So under their direction, we want to fully follow their guidelines and oversight and help basically add more hands to the field to help them do their work.
I mean, we still got a little bit of time left, but I really just wanted to, you know, ask you personally, you know, how does this really get you up every day, given that, I mean, you know, 2 years ago you really had a, you know, solid, you know, job in the solar industry, and then just, you know, making this change now as a full-time executive director of 808 Cleanups. How has that, you know, really impacted you personally?
Definitely. Well, it's one of those things you don't foresee it, but then once you get this I guess this bug in you, this inspiration, and you see all these other people who are of the same mind, it just feeds itself. And I tell you what, when I see people who can enjoy these clean and safe places, it really makes my day.
And then, I mean, what really got you to that decision to really make this, your full-time gig?
Well, it's still a work in progress.
Right.
There's no denying that. So that's why we're working hard to build it up. And really, we want to grow this so that everyone can benefit. Because one day I want to look back, and everyone looks back and they're like, wow, I can't believe it used to be that bad.
Right.
And we came together, and look at how amazing we made everything. And we made it all cleaner, safer, stronger across the board.
Right. Well, anyways, I mean, it was really great having you, Michael, and I mean, we really wish you the best with your organization.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
My pleasure being on here.
Thank you. And I mean, mahalo again for joining us on another episode of Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. My name is Kendrick Chang, your host of this show. We do like to thank the Ōlelo Studio and Kaimuki High School for putting this on, as well as Livable Hawaii Kai Hui for sponsoring this monthly program. Good night.